be joined tonight by Kelly Smith, Senior Director of Research at the Economic Security Project, and Chris Given, Product Lead for IRS Direct File. For today's webinar, we will begin with a presentation from Kelly about what Direct File is and an overview of the program. That will be followed by a live demonstration of the tool led by Chris. We will also have a question and answer portion at the end of the webinar, so please keep your questions in mind as we go. Before we begin, I want to share just a few notes of housekeeping. For those of you joining us on Zoom, please use the Q&A feature to submit your questions. We will prioritize questions from constituents from NY14, so please mention your neighborhood when submitting your questions. If you run into any technical difficulties, our staff is available to help. You can email us at aoc.townhall@mail.house.gov or call us at 718-662-5970. Our team will be monitoring both throughout the event. As a reminder, our office is here to support NY14 constituents with any issue pending before a federal agency. We are able to assist with delays or problems related to the IRS, Social Security Administration, veterans benefits, passport processing, and more. We can also assist with immigration cases that are outside of normal processing times. You can call us at 718-662-5970 or visit our website at ocasio-cortez.house.gov and fill out a casework request. We also want to remind our viewers to make sure you are signed up for our office newsletter, where you can stay up to date on our upcoming events, webinars, and more. With that, I would like to turn it over to Kelly Smith, Senior Director of Research from the Economic Security Project.
Thanks so much, Kat. I'm going to share my screen so I can show you all some slides. Just give me a sec here. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the Congresswoman and her team for creating this space for this really important conversation. My name is Kelly Smith. I'm from the Economic Security Project. We are an organization that works to build power for all Americans and ensure that we all have the freedom and stability required to thrive. And so I'm very excited to be here to talk about IRS Direct File, which is one of the ways that we can get that freedom and stability required to thrive. If I were in the room with you, what I would do right now is say, raise your hand if you haven't filed your taxes yet. And probably a whole bunch of you would raise your hand because we are a nation of procrastinators. And not everybody is a tax nerd like me who likes to do their taxes the minute they're available. You are in good company if you haven't filed your taxes yet. Only about 60 million American households have filed their taxes so far. And about 100 million still haven't, so it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. You still have until April 15th to file your taxes. That's about 8 days, and we are going to talk about a way that you can do it for free and really easily directly through the IRS in these next few riveting slides. Okay, so Economic Security Project has worked on access to tax credit and tax filing for several years. And what we've heard from a lot of people in the communities that we talk to is that tax filing is really hard. Probably that won't come as a surprise to many of you who are on this webinar. The IRS says that it takes the average American 9 hours and $150 to file their taxes every year. And so what happens is, instead of filing your taxes, it's too hard to do, so you don't file your taxes, and you miss out on really important benefits like the Earned Income Tax Credit, or you may have heard it called the EITC, or the Child Tax Credit, the CTC. Those can be worth like thousands of dollars in tax refunds, and we don't want folks to miss out on those. And so what we did a couple of years ago is that we co-founded the Free and Fair Filing Coalition with the goal of promoting a free and simple and publicly owned online tax filing tool And then the IRS created it in Direct File. Now is a good time for me to let you know that the information that's presented in this slideshow is solely attributable to Economic Security Project, not to the Congresswoman or the IRS. Just me speaking for us and on behalf of this coalition. So let me talk a little bit more about what IRS Direct File is and how it came about. And then I promise we'll get to the good stuff, and Chris will get to show you the demo of it. So you've probably heard, or maybe you've seen online, like people making jokes about how tax filing is so hard in the US, and that there are a lot of countries where the government actually does your taxes for you, or maybe they fill out a tax form and then they send it to you in the mail, and then you review it, you sign off, you say yes, it looks good, and then you send it back. And so this is the culmination of many years of work and lots of people thinking that, tax filing doesn't have to be this hard, and it really doesn't have to be this way. So what happened was in 2021, Congress passed the American Rescue Plan, which gave the IRS the direction to go out and study a way to make tax filing easier. And the IRS came up with Direct File. And they said, you know what, not only are we going to release a study on it, we're actually going to create a pilot. And so that's what they did. Last year, for the first time ever, the IRS rolled out an online public free tax filing tool in 12 states. One of them was New York. So you guys get to claim to be one of the first states that ever used Direct File. And it had, limited scope in terms of who was able to use it. This year, the IRS has doubled the number of states in which Direct File is available to 25 states. And there are 32 million people who are eligible to use it, including about 3.3 million here in New York State. And that's about 30% of households. So a lot of folks are eligible to use it. The idea here, and Chris can tell you all about this much better than I can as a person who builds technology, but the way that the IRS has gone about this is by building something, making sure it works really well, and then building on it. And so that's the idea here with Direct File. Started off a little smaller last year, and then building on it a little bit more. And eventually what we hope is that all 50 states will have Direct File, and that it'll cover lots and lots of tax situations. So it really becomes the norm for you to be able to file your taxes online and for free through IRS. Okay, so what is it? It is a new and better way to file your taxes, in my humble opinion, completely for free and directly with the IRS. What you can expect when you use Direct File is something, interview style questions that are easy to understand. So plain language, things like, did you change jobs this year? Did you have a child? Did you get married or divorced? Do you still live in the same state? Not tax speak that is really complicated for a lot of folks who, if you try and go and file, fill out your own tax forms yourself, it's really hard. If you've used something like TurboTax before, it's similar to that, where you get really easy questions to answer, you answer those questions, and then it fills in the information for you. The really cool thing about this is it doesn't cost you $150 to do. It's an online tool that you can access from your phone, your tablet, or your computer. And so you could, grab your smartphone while you're on this call listening to us, and go to directfile.irs.gov and start filing your taxes. And if you don't finish during this call, you can save your progress and go back later. It's a public tool. There are no middlemen that are involved in, from the private tax paid software that you have to go through to get your free tax filing. It's direct with the government, which means it's secure. It is always free. You don't get any ads or upsells, and it's available in English and Spanish. So why do we like Direct File? Well, like I said at the beginning of this call, Economic Security Project comes to this work through tax credits. We've been working to try and put cash into people's pockets. And what we found is one of the best ways to do that is through tax credits like the EITC and the CTC. But we also found that people had a really hard time filing their taxes. And so we came to this going, okay, this is one of the doors that we really need to open for people to allow them to be able to file their taxes. So as I said before, this is something that's going to save you time and save you money to use. It is completely free with no ads. Some of you may have tried to use something in the past where, it says it's free, and then you go and you file, you answer all the questions, and then you get to the end and then you find out that they're actually charging you something, and then you can't figure out how to get back to the free one. That's not going to happen with Direct File. It's completely free forever. It saves time. The information that we learned from the pilot last year is that people were often able to file their taxes in under an hour. So compare that to the average time that it takes right now, 9 hours, and you're able to get in and get out in under an hour to file both your federal and your state taxes. It is pretty life-changing for lots of folks. And as I said, it's something that's going to help you get tax credits that are worth sometimes thousands of dollars. You don't have to take my word for whether this is easy to use, even though I'm a total nerd about it and I'm very excited about it. The pilot data from last year, the IRS did a survey of the users that use Direct File, and they asked them what their experience was. What they found was that 90% of respondents ranked their experience as excellent or above average, which is just kind of outrageous, especially for a government piece of technology, that a lot of folks were very surprised at how well it worked. And we were all pleasantly surprised to see that, like, this is something that people really wanted and that it really did work for them. 86% of respondents said that their experience with Direct File increased their trust in the IRS. Okay, think about this. Our friends from the IRS who are here should put on earmuffs. But the thing I want to say is the IRS is not necessarily everybody's very favorite government agency. But when people use Direct File, they said afterward, most of them said that it increased their trust in the IRS. So this is something that's really working and making people have such positive feelings that it actually makes them think in a positive way about the IRS. And then the last thing I want to say about this is that it actually does help new users get into tax filing. So the data from last year show that 1 in 4 users were people who hadn't filed their taxes the year before. And that's about twice the number of people who file their taxes using any other way to file their taxes. And our hypothesis has been that if you make tax filing easy and free, you're going to make it easier for people who don't usually file their taxes to actually file their taxes and get the benefits that they're eligible for. And so the data are showing that that's really true, and that people are really having an easy time using this. Okay, so I have made my pitch. You are chomping at the bit to use Direct File, and now you're saying, okay, I'm so interested. How do I get it? Where do I go? Am I eligible? And the answer is you go to directfile.irs.gov and see if you're eligible. As I said, this is something that's rolling out over multiple years, so it doesn't cover all taxpayers yet, but it does cover a large chunk of taxpayers. So the biggest question you're going to ask yourself is, I want to be able to use this. Can I use it? Am I eligible to use it? There's a lot of information here, and there's a lot of tax speak on this slide. You don't need to write it down. You don't need to memorize it. I'm not even going to read it, because what you need to do is go to directfile.irs.gov, which will run you through normal language questions to figure out if you're eligible to use Direct File. But in a nutshell, the thing I want you to know is it will cover most straightforward individual tax situations. Like I said before, it covers about 3.3 million households in New York, about 1/3 of tax filers. If you file using a standard deduction, meaning you don't itemize your deductions, if you have a regular W-2 job, like a wage and salary job, if you claim most of the common credits, and generally if you have income up to about $200,000 if you're single, or $250,000 if you're married, you probably qualify to use Direct File. The one caveat that I want to make sure folks know about, because it's pretty common, is Direct File does not yet cover gig work. So if you have a W-2 job, but you also are a delivery driver on the side, and you get a 1099 for that, that's not yet covered under Direct File. Like I said, I'm not going to read everything that's on this slide. Chris is here to answer all kinds of questions about the technicalities of the tool and what it covers. But I want to make sure, I just want to, throw this up here so you can see sort of the breadth of what it covers. Here are some of the questions that get asked a lot. And again, as Kat said at the outset, there will be opportunities for you all to ask more specific questions. But these are the things that we get a lot when we're out in the community talking to folks. Is there an income limit to use Direct File? Yes. It's $200,000 for single filers or $250,000 for married filing joint. Generally speaking, there are a couple of other little specifics in there that are, again, they'll be answered on the eligibility checker. Can I use Direct File if I have an I-10. Yes, if you filed taxes before with your I-10, then you can use Direct File with your I-10. I have retirement income. Can I use Direct File? Yes, probably. Generally speaking, if you got retirement income from like an employer-sponsored plan, so like a 401k, a pension, a 403b, those things are going to be covered. But if you're getting distributions from an IRA, those are not yet covered under Direct File. Other cool thing is I'm stuck. I don't know what they mean by this question. Can I get chat support? Yes, chat support is available in English and Spanish. And can I file my state taxes too? Again, yes. You go to directfile.irs.gov, you fill in your information there, and then what will happen at the end is you'll go get bumped over to the New York State Direct File tool, and then you'll be able to finish filing there after answering just a couple more questions. Okay, so what should you expect? You're ready to use Direct File. What are you gonna run into? You're gonna go to directfile.irs.gov. Again, you can use your phone, you can use your tablet, you can use your computer. You're gonna see if you're eligible in the eligibility checker. It's like 5 screens that you click through that cover different sections, and you'll see, okay, this kind of income is eligible, or I have this kind of form. Is this covered or not? You're gonna create an account with ID Me. Then you're going to answer questions about your basic information. So your name and your address, your jobs, your dependents, did you have any kids? Did you take care of anybody? Cool thing about Direct File is it's going to pre-fill a bunch of that information for you. I'll let Chris talk in more detail about what is pre-filled on there, but whereas you used to have to type all of your stuff into any of those other tools, the IRS has a whole bunch of the data already about us, right? Like that's one of the cool things about being able to do this through IRS. They know what your W-2 says, and so they're going to be able to pre-fill that information for you. The other cool thing, as I said, is you could chat with customer service if you run into trouble, and then if you want to talk to somebody on the phone, you can talk to them on the phone too. Then you're just going to review your information. One of the other neat aspects of Direct File is that it'll explain to you at each step what you're doing and what's happening and what impact that a section is having on your taxes. And then it's going to push you over to your state taxes. You answer a few more questions and then you're going to be all done. I just want to show you a couple of little screens here. Chris is going to show you a whole demo of the tool. I'm not going to show you a whole bunch of it, but I wanted to show you just a couple of my favorite things that we've picked up when we're talking to people in the community that people really like. So one of them is, as I said, easy questions using real language and not tax speak. So, how is John related to you? Is he your child, your sibling? It's not things like, do you have any dependents? Because not everybody knows what the definition of dependents is when it comes to taxes. You can toggle between English and Spanish, so you don't have to just choose one and do that for the entire thing. You can go back and forth. And there's chat support available also in English and Spanish, which is really exciting. The last thing I want to do before I hand it over to Chris is to show you a little bit about what it might look like to do your state taxes. So you've done your federal taxes, you've zipped through that. The IRS has filled in a whole bunch of the information for you. And then it takes you to a screen and goes, okay, now it's time for you to go do your state taxes. Just wait a second. We're going to fill in some of that information. Again, if you've used TurboTax or some other piece of software, you're familiar with this process. Then you're going to answer a few more questions. Again, this is not the exact tool. This is just something that it might look like. You're going to verify your address. You're going to say what county you live in. You're going to say what school district you live in. You're going to tell the tool whether you made any out-of-state purchases. You're going to put the number on your ID or driver's license. Then you're going to get a summary of your refund or what you owe. You're going to review your information and you're going to click submit, and then you're all done with your state taxes too, which is great because that gives you more time for dancing. Thank you so much. That's all I have for you. I'm going to pass it over to Chris so that he can show you how fun this tool is, and hopefully you'll be inspired to go file those taxes. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Kelly. So, hey everybody, my name is Chris Given, IRS, where my team is the one that gets to design and build Direct. So Kelly has told you all about Direct File, and I have the distinct privilege of you. And so if I can share my screen, I will pull it right up and walk through. So if you go to directfile.irs.gov, as Kelly mentioned, this on a desktop computer, on a laptop, or on a phone or a tablet. It works great on all of those devices. And the homepage reminds you that Direct File is accurate, easy, and of course, always free. We also are very proud for this year, we are importing some of the information that the IRS already knows, so we can make the process of your taxes even faster. And then, of course, we also have, as Kelly mentioned, support from real, live IRS employed human beings. These are folks who are English and Spanish. They're employed by the IRS in Puerto Rico, New York, and California, and they are available 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. I will note that Monday to Friday here, as this is the final weekend of filing season coming up. These folks will also be available to answer questions this weekend until 7 p.m. So if you have questions about your taxes, about using Direct File, these folks are always there to help and support you. As Kelly mentioned, the first step to using Direct File is going to be to find out whether we're eligible for it. Let's check our eligibility now, and we'll choose our state. Hello, New York. And so here are some of the New York-specific exclusions and restrictions. In New York State, you have to have lived in New York for the entirety of the year. You can, if you live in New York City or if you live in Yonkers, you have to have lived in New York City or in Yonkers for the entirety of the year. If you were only in New York City or Yonkers for part of the year, the New York State tool does not yet support that tax situation. I'm not able to use the New York State tool if I had made contributions to a 529 plan, which is for saving for college. If I have any more questions about this, I can follow this link here. The New York State Department of Taxation and Finance will explain exactly what's in our scope for New York. I'm going to keep moving along. As Kelly mentioned, we only support certain income types, so typical job income with a Form W-2, unemployment compensation, Social Security, retirement income, interest income, distributions from HSAs are all in scope. As Kelly mentioned, one thing that's not in scope for us is gig economy income that might be reported on a Form 1099 NISC or a Form 1099 NEC. This would be a form that you would get if you did work for Uber or DoorDash. That's not yet supported in Direct File, so we'll point you to other options that are better suited to you. You can use Direct File if you have a health savings account or if you make contributions to a retirement account. The one piece that I want to call out here that's not supported is if you made contributions to an individual retirement arrangement or IRA. That's not yet supported in Direct File. But other retirement savings, absolutely great. Direct File does not allow you to itemize your taxes. So if you have itemized in the past, Direct File is probably not the right tool for you. And then, of course, we support a long list of credits. I will note that there are some credits that we don't yet support. I think that the main one to call out here is if you yourself or someone, a dependent, a kid, is currently in college and you're paying tuition for them, something called the American Opportunity Tax Credit or the Lifetime Learning Credit, those credits are not yet supported in Direct File. So again, perhaps look to other options, but all these other credits are very easy to claim in Direct File. And then finally, if Direct File sounds like a good option, I'm going to be asked to create an account if I don't already have an account with IRS, and then we can log in. I'm going to been logged out. This is not what Direct File looks like. This is a fake site that we use for test purposes. And I'm going to log in. And here I am. This is what Direct File looks like. Of course, this is still our test site. And I'm going to start my 2024 tax return. I will note that Direct File is available in English and Spanish on any page. I can click this Español button at the top, and the language will switch into Spanish. We know that a lot of folks are bilingual and prefer to read stuff in both English and Spanish, so we made it very easy to flip back and forth. I will note that our Spanish translations have been translated by real, live, human Spanish translators. And so it's not something that was done by a machine and might be wrong. This is something that we stand behind as a good translation. And of course, if I have any questions, the chat button's at the top of every page, and I can get connected to an IRS employee to answer any questions. As Kelly mentioned, one of the things that we're very excited about this year for Direct File is that Direct File can import the information that the IRS already knows about you. So I'm going to hit continue, and I'll get started. This is the checklist. And so it's kind of a list of all the steps that I'm going to go through to prepare my tax return. And in the About You section, we see an example of this, that we've already filled in some information, my name, my mailing address, my email address. If any of this information is wrong, I can just hit the edit button. Let's say my middle initial is actually M. My name is not Marjorie Simpson, but this is, again, just a test account, and this is all fake information. If this is correct, I can say, yes, this is correct, and I'll keep on going. I am a direct filer. And so a lot of direct file, as Kelly mentioned, is plain language, yes or no questions, things that you can answer based on information that you already know. Our goal is that you don't have to use a lot of Googling or looking at all the instructions and other information on the IRS website. That's all here. If you do have questions about what we're asking, though, you'll often see these pop-ups that allow you to understand a little bit more about the information. So here we're explaining why we're asking about citizenship. Of course, I could say, no, I was not a citizen all year. Maybe I naturalized this year. And so again, these questions are personalized to me, and they're changing based on what I say. Where did I live for all of 2024? Well, I lived in New York. Now, I will note that in addition to having to live in New York, typically all my income has to be from New York State. But that does not mean that I didn't have an out-of-state employer. The key is going to be that that employer knew that I lived in New York and reported my income as New York State income. And so what we can do is we can take a look at our Form W-2 that we got from our employer. I'll look at the bottom of that form in box 15. And if it just says New York there, you're good to go. As long as it matches and it's just New York, the New York State tool can handle your needs. If it has an additional state or if it has a different state than the one that you actually live in, that's where the New York State tool is not going to be able to handle your needs. So as long as I say no, box 15 lists only New York, I'm good to go. I want to jump forward. Actually, I'll keep it moving a little bit. One additional piece that I want to highlight for this year is that direct file, another piece of information you can automatically import is an identity protection PIN. And I want to take a moment to explain what an identity protection or IP PIN is. This is a number that the IRS can optionally issue to you that prevents someone else from filing a tax return on your behalf. That's important if you've ever been a victim of identity theft. This provides an additional means to secure your information and prevent someone from claiming your refund. But crucially, another thing that's new this year is that if in the past, if someone else had claimed your dependent, you would not be able to electronically file your taxes. You'd have to file on paper and wait for the IRS to sort out who was supposed to claim the child before you could actually get your refund. And now this year, if someone has claimed your child and they weren't supposed to, what you can do is you can request an identity protection PIN or IP PIN for yourself. And by using that number and taking advantage of that additional security, you'll be able to file electronically, even if someone else has done what they're not supposed to do and claim the kid that you're going to claim. So if you had the experience in the past of not being able to file electronically because someone else claimed the kid, this now provides a way around that. I'm going to skip forward a little bit because obviously there are lots of questions, and I'm going to show you what it looks like to answer information about your jobs. Because of course, this year, we are now able to import information from your employer about what you made and save you a little bit of time as you enter that information. So here, I have a couple of W-2s, and I can choose which of these W-2s I want to import into my tax return. The choice is totally mine. I don't have to import the information. And also, I'll note that not all employers get us the information on time. And so your W-2 might be missing, and you might need to manually enter it. Even if we don't have it when you file, you still need to enter that information because we'll get it eventually, and then we'll notice that you're missing a W-2. I will also note that we're not able to import the information in boxes 12, 14, or 16 through 20, where the state and local information is. That information you will still have to manually enter, but as Kelly mentioned, this is our first step. We're building this new tool, and we expect this to get better over time. In addition to being able to import information from your employer on Form W-2, you can also import interest information from Form 1099 int. This is if you have like a savings account in a bank or a bond or other sort of interest income. We'll be able to import that information automatically, and we'll also be able to tell you if you have Form 1095A, which is something that you would have if you purchase health insurance on the health insurance marketplace. So all of these data import features are new this year. Actually, the ability to import interest income is so new, it rolled out last week. Kelly said a lot of people are procrastinating, but procrastination has its advantages because now you'll get to use an even better direct file to file your taxes. So that's a little taste of direct file, and I think we're going to turn it back to the representative's office for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much for that wonderful demonstration of the direct file tool. As promised, we will now move on to the Q&A portion. As I mentioned earlier, those signed on via the Zoom platform may use the Q&A feature to submit your questions. Please mention what neighborhood you are a resident of, as we will prioritize NY14 constituents. The first question that we have here is, we have a constituent asking, can they file an extension through direct file?
Great question. Unfortunately, it's not possible to file an extension through direct file this year. I will note that it is possible to file an extension with the IRS by going to irs.gov/pay, where you can file an extension there by submitting a payment of what you expect to owe. The key piece there is you have to be able to know what you expect to owe. So if that's not a question that you're able to readily answer, you might want to look for a different option. And if you go to irs.gov, we can point you to lots of options that do support filing extensions, but it's not possible to file an extension with direct file and figure out exactly what you'll owe right now.
Okay, thank you, Chris. The next question we have is, I have a domestic partner. I cover my domestic partner under my work health insurance, dental, and vision. Does this qualify for a tax break?
Sorry, no, it doesn't. But yeah, you're still able to use direct file if you fall into that situation.
Okay, thank you, Chris. The next question we have is, can I use direct file if I live in Yonkers?
Yes, you can. The key is going to be that you have to have lived in New York City or in Yonkers for the entirety of the year. There are particular tax rules that apply to New York City and in Yonkers. There are local taxes involved. And so if you were a part-year resident of New York City or a part-year resident of Yonkers, that's not something that the New York State tool currently supports. So if you lived in either New York City or in Yonkers for the entirety of the year, you're absolutely able to use direct file and, of course, the New York State direct file.
Okay, thank you. So another question we have is there an income limit to file with direct file?
There's not technically an income limit. However, there are tax situations that apply to higher income earners that are not supported in direct file. So Kelly mentioned a couple of kind of good rules of thumb, which is that if you made over $200,000 or $250,000 if you're married filing jointly, you're not able to use direct file. There are also additional restrictions that you can find on the eligibility checker page if you make over $125,000 that are worth reading through just to make sure they don't apply to you. Again, direct file is able to check this out as you go through, so we'll catch it if you're doing something wrong. But if you want to figure out up front, check out the eligibility checker if you make over $125,000. If you're under $125,000, this is an easy yes, direct file supports your tax situation.
Thank you, Chris. The next question is, how is this different from other tax filing websites?
I can take that. There are other ways to file your taxes, of course. So there are a lot of ways to file your taxes not for free. And we all know about those ones, right? There are places that you can go and give them $150 to file your taxes. Nobody wants to do that if you don't have to. There are a few other ways to file your taxes for free. Some of you have probably heard of VITA, which is Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. Those are places in your neighborhood where you can go and file your taxes for free in person. They're awesome. You may have also noticed that all of your VITA providers are really overwhelmed during tax filing season because there are a lot more people who want to use VITA than VITA is able to serve. And so part of the reason that direct file is so great is that for folks who can file their taxes online for free, they don't have to now go into a VITA site, go in person. They can do it online for free. There are other tools also You may have heard of myfreetaxes.com, which allows some folks to file their taxes for free. It has an income limit of $84,000. So if you make $84,000 or more, you can't use it. It has a little bit of a different scope in terms of what it covers versus Direct File. But what I'll say is that Direct File, what we have generally heard from folks in the community is that Direct File is more user-friendly. It has better language capability. As Chris said, it imports your data. And then the other thing is that the Direct File team, because they rolled it out as a pilot, and because they did a lot of study of Direct File before actually rolling out the tool, they did a lot of user testing to ensure that the questions are phrased in a way that people understand. And I think that a lot of the other online tools do not have the benefit of having been written in a way that people, it makes sense to people. And so it seems from what we have heard and the experience that we've seen from all the research is that Direct File is received really, really well. And that if you're eligible for it, it's the best experience that folks have reported. And then the other thing about it that's great is that, you go to file your taxes and you're like Googling, how do I file my taxes for free? And you get 7 different things and you don't really know where to go and which thing you can trust. Direct File is one way, one door for you to go into. It's through the IRS so that you can trust it, and allows, more people to be able to file their taxes for free. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Kelly. The next question is, what are the accessibility features provided in Direct File?
Oh, great question, because I think, accessibility is something that's really important to our team. And as Kelly was mentioning, we built Direct File by talking to lots of taxpayers about their experiences. And so, at this point, we've talked to, I believe at last count, over 360 different taxpayers, showing them Direct File and asking, what they find confusing, getting for their feedback and iterating and improving Direct File based on what they say. Now, one of the key things is that we've tested Direct File with folks who have different accessibility needs, who use assistive technology like screen readers, and made sure that it works really well for them. So it's difficult to point to a specific accessibility feature, because I think the goal is that the entirety of Direct File is a very accessible experience no matter how you access it, whether you access that on a desktop computer, on a phone, whether you access that using a screen reader, whether you're accessing that using large type. Any way that you want to access it, we've designed it to be really easy to use and to work really well. So it's difficult to point to a single feature and just say, the whole thing is really accessible. And so whatever your needs are, we hope it works well for you. And if it doesn't, we want to hear from you as well. And so, you can provide that feedback to our customer support. There's also a survey that you can take at the end of Direct File where you can tell us about how your experience has been. And so encourage folks to take that survey, regardless of whether you have any accessibility needs, and tell us how it was.
Thank you, Chris. Our next question is from a constituent in East Elmhurst. The constituent shares, I did not file a return for 2023. Most of my income was exempt. Can I use Direct File to file now for 2023?
So it is not possible to file prior year tax returns in Direct File. As Kelly mentioned, there is the VITA program, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. That is a free program that is able to file past year tax returns. And you may be able to find other options online that also support filing prior year returns. But I note that both Direct File and Free File only support filing in the current year.
Thank you, Chris. The next question says, it's from one of our constituents from Jackson Heights. What if my W-4 box 15 is saying New Jersey? Can I still use Direct File?
No. Well, so if you lived in New York the entirety of the year, no, you cannot use Direct File if you had paid some New Jersey state taxes, which is what that means when that's on the bottom of your Form W-2. If you lived in New Jersey all year, then you're absolutely able to use it. The key is that it has to match, right? So if you lived in New York, it has to say just New York on your W-2. If you lived in New Jersey, it has to say just New Jersey. Otherwise, you have part year tax obligations, you have to pay taxes to multiple states. That can be tricky, and it's not something that either the New York State or the New Jersey state tools currently support. So we point you to other options, to Free File or to VITA, to file your taxes for free.
Thank you. Next question is, how fast is the first response from support if I need help?
Usually we are able to respond within a minute, and sometimes even faster. I will note that tax day is 8 days away, and this is a fairly busy time of year for us here at the IRS. So those numbers might slip a little bit, but I encourage you, it is a fairly fast response. It has been all year so far. And if you're patient, the response is worth waiting for. So hopefully it's fast. You can always tell us what you think and provide feedback. We'd love to hear it.
Thank you. Next question is, does this tool cover stocks and crypto trades?
We do not currently support either stocks or crypto. I will note, if you didn't sell any stocks, you're still in scope for direct file. But if you sold stocks, you'll have what's called a capital gain, and that's something that we do not yet support. So if you have sold or held crypto, or if you sold stocks, we do not yet support that tax situation.
Thank you so much, Chris. I think for now that might be all. If anyone else has another question, please. Oh, here we have is from another constituent. Is there a specific reason why it doesn't cover individuals working for Uber? It would seem they would need it for cost reduction.
I will say we would love to support, it's called Schedule C for the nerds in the room. This is what you need to file if you have, technically, if you work for Uber, you are considered a business and you have business income. And that's something that we would absolutely love to support in Direct File. As Kelly mentioned, we're building Direct File step by step. And so we haven't yet gotten to supporting business income like you would have if you supported Uber. But I think I totally agree with the question. It's a very important thing to support. Because it's very important to many people, and particularly folks who are claiming credits that we want to help folks claim, like the Earned Income Tax Credit.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, well, thank you for answering all those questions. Actually, we also have one more question here. Why isn't it available in all 50 states?
The biggest reason is that we want to make sure that you're able to file your state taxes. So in addition to we, the IRS, building direct file at the federal level, New York State, the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance had to build New York State direct file in order to help folks file New York State taxes. So we file the federal return, we copy all your information over to the New York State tool, and as Kelly was mentioning, we're typically seeing folks being able to file their state taxes in 10 minutes or less because there are so few questions that you have to answer on the state side. So what's required is that the state has to have a tool that is able to file the state taxes. And we have that in 25 states now, but in the other 25, we're still working with those departments of revenue to add support for direct file, to create those tools and integrate them with direct file so you can have that same great experience. We don't want anyone to be in a situation where you file your federal return for free and have a great experience, and then you're in a lurch because you can't file a state tax return. So that's where we are. We're working with all those departments of revenue to build the tools that will help file those state taxes.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for answering all those questions. Would you or Kelly like to give some final words? Final remarks?
You go ahead, Chris.
Go for it, Kelly.
I just want to say thank you all for being here and thank you for having us. The thing that, Chris joked about for the nerds in the room, and I definitely am a nerd in this room talking about tax filing. And when you think about it, it feels like it's a small thing. But really, it is the doorway to a lot of economic security for a lot of folks, especially these tax refunds that a lot of people rely on. That can be like a pretty big part of your income throughout the year. A lot of us wait for our tax refund each year to get the car fixed or, replace the washer and dryer or whatever the thing is. And this is really a way to make that so much easier for folks. And when I think about it, I'm like, I have, little cousins who are 18, 19, 20 years old and they're filing their taxes, for one of the first times. And I'm hopeful that what we have is, when they're my age, they look back and go, oh my God, I can't believe you guys used to file your taxes that way, right? Like now you can file your taxes online and for free and it's so easy. I can't believe you did all this other stuff. And I really think like this is the first step toward doing that. I hope that, you all use it and have a good experience with it because it really is, lots of good ideas and smart people in the room to make it as user-friendly as possible for folks to use.
I would second that and say, thank you for spending your time talking taxes with us. I think, one piece that I've emphasized a few times is that Direct File was something that was built with taxpayers. There have been 360 taxpayers who have helped us at every stage of the way. And of course, we get so much life from the feedback we're receiving from taxpayers who take our survey and tell us what they think about it and provide suggestions of things that we could do better. The most common suggestion last year was, why can't you import my W-2? And so here we are a year later, and we've been able to do that. So I would just extend a huge thank you to everyone who helped us build Direct File and is continuing to provide feedback and tell us how we can make it better because, we read those feedbacks every single week. It's very exciting to us. And so just a huge thank you to everyone who's helped us get to this point.
Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you so much to everyone for your questions. If we didn't get to your question, please email us at aoc.townhall@mail.house.gov or call 718-662-5970. If you are a constituent and you are in need of casework assistance, please go to our website and fill out a casework request. Or again, call us at 718-662-5970. This brings us to the end of the webinar. We will be posting the full recording and the demo on our social media after tonight's event, so be sure to keep an eye out if you'd like to rewatch or share it with others. As always, we appreciate your time and engagement. And remember, if you have not filed your taxes yet, you have until April 15th to visit directfile.irs.gov and file them for free. Thank you, everyone, so much, and I hope you all have a great evening.